You know, in our endless search for a longer, healthier, more vibrant life, we're always looking to the future, right? To the next big scientific breakthrough. But what if some of the deepest answers were actually hidden thousands of years in our past? Okay, let's really get into this. Believe it or not, the great sages of ancient India were obsessed with this exact same question. I mean, they weren't just trying to figure out how to cure diseases. They were on a mission to unlock peak human potential and find the secret to true longevity. So here's how we're going to break down their answer. We'll start with their ancient quest for a long life. Then we'll nail down exactly what this thing called Rasayana therapy is all about, and you won't believe the benefits it promised. We'll also look at the two very different ways you could approach it. And finally, we'll see how these ancient formulas actually connect to things we still use today. We have to go back thousands of years, way before modern medicine. The foundational texts of Ayurveda were being written, and the sages back then, they were all too aware of what aging does to us. They poured their energy into finding a way to not just slow it down, but to actually reverse its effects. And the system they came up with, this whole branch of Ayurvedic medicine, they called it Rasayana Chikitsa. This was their science of rejuvenation. So, what in the world is Rasayana? Well, the name itself actually gives us a massive clue. Okay, so Rasayana basically means the essential fluid of life, the juice, the core essence that nourishes all our body's tissues. And ayana just means a path. So put it together, and Rasayana is literally the path of the essence. It's a whole system for making our tissues the absolute best quality they can be, building vitality from the inside out. And this right here is a really crucial point. The ancient texts are super clear about this. Rasayana isn't mainly for sick people. They called it swastasya or jaskaram, which means it's an energy booster for the healthy. Think of it as a proactive approach, taking someone who's already well and elevating them to a whole new level of vitality. All right, so let's say you go through with this therapy. What's the payoff? Well, the promises laid out in the ancient texts, they are nothing short of extraordinary.
And the results they were talking about were totally holistic. It wasn't just about living a long time. It was about living an upgraded life. We're talking about better memory, higher intelligence, keeping that youthful energy, and even getting a glowing complexion and a stronger voice. It was really about hitting your absolute peak physically and mentally, a complete state of excellence.
But here's the thing. This wasn't some rigid one-size-fits-all deal. The sages were practical. They knew people had different lives, different commitments. So they actually laid out two totally different paths to get rejuvenated. This just shows you how smart their thinking was. On one side, you had Kuta Praveshika, which literally means entering a hut. This was the hardcore version, an intense, immersive retreat, basically a total system reboot, away from the rest of the world. But then you had Vatapeka, the wind and sun method. This was the accessible, practical approach for regular people living their everyday lives. Now that intensive method, it is just fascinating because the level of detail and planning that went into it was just wow. It was like a perfectly controlled scientific experiment, but from thousands of years ago. The texts lay out the exact blueprints for this special hut. First, the location had to be just right, pure and facing east or north. Then the hut itself was this special three-layered insulated chamber to create a totally stable environment inside. And get this, the windows were just tiny, narrow slits. The whole point was to control everything, the wind, the sun, even the sounds, to get rid of all external stress, so the body could focus all its energy inward on healing and rebuilding itself. So that perfectly controlled environment was one half of the equation. The other half was what the person was actually taking inside the hut, these incredibly specific herbal and mineral formulas. And these were not just random potions, they were precise recipes that had been developed over centuries. And here's where you might actually recognize something. The most famous of all these formulas is probably Chyawanprash. It's this jam-like mixture, a classic Rasayana, that has survived for thousands of years and is still used by people all over the world. The ancient recipe is incredibly precise about the ingredients. The number one ingredient is amalaki, or Indian gooseberry, which we now know is packed with vitamin C. And that's mixed with things like honey, a special bamboo extract, and long pepper, plus dozens of other herbs. And its whole purpose? Well, the original texts say it was meant to give nourishment and strength to the old, the weak, and even the injured. Its goal then and now is deep, fundamental rejuvenation. To really get how important this was, you just have to hear how they talked about it. This quote says it all. They held Rasayana in the highest possible regard. This wasn't just medicine to them. It was the key to an almost divine state of health, right up there with the nectar of the gods.
And that kind of brings us full circle, back to today. In our world of biohacking and life extension tech, this ancient system offers a different angle. It's a powerful reminder that maybe true longevity isn't just about adding more years to your life, but about adding more life, more vitality, more intelligence to your years. So what can we learn from a system that put the quality of our life's essence above everything else?